This show is brought to you by Carnegie Hall. Carnegie Hall presents the program Rhiannon Giddens Songs of Our Native Daughters. Giddens teams up with kindred banjo players to shine new light on African American women's stories of struggle, resistance, and hope. With unflinching, razor-sharp honesty, they confront frequently sanitized views about America's history of slavery, racism, and misogyny from a powerful Black female perspective. The performance takes place on November 4th, 2022 at 8 p.m. To purchase tickets, visit carnegiehall.org. Carnegie Hall, your seats are waiting. Hey, what's up, good people? It's Jay Ray, the co-host of Q Points, and I wanted to come to you because there are two really important ways that you can support our show. One is by subscribing to it wherever you listen to or watch your podcasts. Q Points is pretty much everywhere. The other thing that you can do is you can visit us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on Podchaser, and you can leave us a star rating. Please rate us 5 stars because you know you love Q Points. And on Apple Podcasts and on Podchaser, you can actually leave us a written review. It's not required, but it really does help to spread the word about the show, and it helps people to discover it as they're looking for new podcasts to listen to. We're always appreciative of you supporting Q Points. We thank you so much for all that you've done for us so far, and enjoy the show.
And welcome back. I am Sir Daniel, and you are now tuned to another episode of Q Points, your safe space for meaningful conversations surrounding Black music, Black entertainers. J. Ray, how are you doing this evening?
I am amazing. I'm so happy that we are here to have this magnificent conversation and with us for this journey.
I'm telling you, we had to have him back because what we do here at Q Points, we're like dogs with bones. We are dead set on giving the people the knowledge. We want y'all to be better educated. We want you to get the knowledge from the people that you need to get with, because there's so much history and information regarding the music that we're talking about this evening. And we're so happy to have made an acquaintance and a friend in this next guest. Like I said, we had to have him back. When you find people like this in the potosphere, is that a word? It is now. It is now. It's in the potosphere. You got to hold on to them because he shares the mission with us. He shares the same mission, and we are still talking about Black people in country music. The past, the present, and the future. I've been yapping long enough. I just want to bring in our friend Big Mike. Welcome back to Q Points. How you been, brother?
My brothers, I am happy to be back. I'm so excited that we're finally starting this thing that we've been talking about. That this is the birth of this thing that we've been really talking about and really getting into the weeds of. It just started as an idea and a conversation, and now here we are. I love it.
It's true. It's truly a journey, and again, I'm thankful that you are our journeyman. At the forefront. You like that, J. Ray? I know you like it. Helping us out with it. So, fellas, what do we have on the table today? Because I'm just as excited as everybody listening right now to delve into this.
Well, I mean, of course, we're going to talk country music, but we're going to get a little bit deeper, more specific, more micro. And we're going to talk about Black people in country music. Specifically, we're going to try to take everyone from kind of the origins, the foundation, and then we're going to take you all the way to what we're listening today and the artists that we're dealing with today. And it's going to be a journey. There's going to be a journey. And, like Sir Daniel said, we're a couple of journeymen. So this is going to be an epic ride, in my opinion. And something that I'm highly passionate about, and didn't realize that I was highly passionate about it. It's really been a interesting learning lesson getting to that point. So I'm excited to talk it up with you guys and talk some country music. That's going to be the fun part of this.
Yes.
Well, stop teasing the folks. Let's do it. Let's get to
Yeah,
it.
like, so Big Mike,
Yeah.
what do you have to bless us with to kind of start us on our journey? We are getting in the car. We are getting in the Dodge Ram. That's what we're getting in. And we are starting our journey. And where are we going today?
Well, we got to start at the beginning. We have to start at the very beginning of country music. And better yet, let's kind of talk about country music, and then let's talk about the beginning of country music. And right now, the current state, there's not a lot of room for us. There's becoming more room, right? But there's not a lot of room for us, and because for a long time there was a lot of gatekeeping of this music and this genre specifically. And up until recently, there's been this boom in Nashville when it comes to people of color, African Americans producing this country music. And a lot of people are going, well, are they being, genuine? Right? Are they being genuine? And you realize as you start to dig a little bit deeper into the history of what country is, we were always there. I was watching a documentary the other night for Love and Country, although on Amazon Prime, and very excellent. We're going to talk about deeper into that later on in this series. But one of the things that her name was Allison Russell, I believe is her name. And she said that Black people in country music, we've been there, like, we're foundational.
Yes.
We're foundational. That means we've always been in there. And so what I love about this conversation and this series that we're going to do is we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about those origins. And that's what I'm excited about. And I mean, we're going to get down to it. We're going to talk about guys like Rufus, T-Tot Payne, who was a mentor to Hank Williams, who is a legend in the country music business. Right? Like,
wow.
We're going to talk about guys like DeFord Bailey. He was the first Black musician to like become such a huge popular thing on the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. So when I say foundational, I mean foundational. We're going to talk about the banjo, who not many people understand came from West Africa.
Yes.
Right? Like,
right? Y'all are in for it. We are. Y'all look, your heads are already blown right now.
Right? Like, came from West Africa. So that's what I'm talking about. When I say we were foundational, we were there at the very beginning, in the infancy of country music. And then we're going to talk about what happened. How did we lose our traction in this genre? So I've given you an overview of what we're going to talk about, but we always have to start at the like where we are now, so we can go back to explain what happened.
Yes.
And so let me ask you, gentlemen, when you think of country music, what do you think of?
So for me, I immediately think of cowboy hats, trucks, white folks with American flags, probably Confederate flags, right?
Yeah.
And songs about everyday life. So that's kind of what I think of when people say country music, that's what I think of.
When I think country music, I think of those work boots from Walmart, lots of camouflage, trucker hats. But I also think back to my childhood, and I think of Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell sisters and their variety show. I think of Hee Haw. I think of, mostly a lot of that representation that I grew up with on as a kid in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And of course, Dolly Parton. Like, Dolly Parton is the biggest representation of country music to me, from my experience, from my exposure to now.
I mean, all in this state, all valid. Like, if you asked a layman's person, all valid things. And I think that is part of an image problem, which is part of the problem, in my opinion. is that's
Right.
what you say. Like that's what you think of when you think country music. But that like we need to reclaim that space. And people like I said, T-Top Payne, who was a mentor. Like Hank Williams credits him. He was at his funeral, credits him as the mentor to him. And we hear these stories. And I think what I love most about the very beginning of country music in its infancy is it really wasn't a black or white thing. It was a black and white thing, right? The banjo and the fiddle, which came from, I believe, Europe. The fiddle or the violin came from Europe, and the banjo came from West Africa, and they came and for some reason they seem to come here and merge here in the United States, right? They're synonymous with each other at this point. Up until then, there was a guy, I forget, he's like Fiddling Frank or something. And he just walked around. It was the old timey music, is what they called it. and and then he was hanging out with a lot of African Americans, slaves back then. But they had this thing. It was made out of a gourd, and it became the banjo, and they merged those two together, and that helped create that sound. But it was a sense of community. They were all working at the time, right? No one was doing this as a profession yet, but this is how they told stories. This is how they commiserated with each other, right? This was a people thing. Country really was about both sides of the coin, because it's just right there. Those instruments are perfect examples of how they came together to create something great. And it's gotten so one-sided. So it's an interesting thing when you start digging into those weeds and those facts.
So it's interesting that you said that they work together, like the musicians that you just mentioned works together. Is it safe to say that this music came out of the working class? It came out of the working class, and those songs were based on, a lot of the earlier music was based on those experiences, especially from the Africans who were enslaved, were songs of their experiences on plantations. And because a lot of them were trained, if I'm not mistaken, trained to play for their masters, right?
Yes. Yeah, a lot of them were trained to play for their masters. And they wanted to have slaves, but they loved the music. Like that was one of the things in the documentaries that they kept saying is, they want these slaves, but they love our music. They love the way it sounded. They love to co-op it, and it's been very interesting to learn how we got to this point. And you listen and you see so many influential Black figures in this music. It's really hard to believe that we've gotten so far away from understanding that.
When you were describing as well that history, and it strikes me as very poignant that this music does seem to reflect directly the lives of the people that are, if they're singing it. Like, I feel like when I'm listening to a country song, I'm in that story and that experience with that person. And that's incredibly powerful as a tool to understand what folks are experiencing. I feel like hip hop or rap music in particular has a lot of alliances to country in that respect. And I don't know that we've ever really explored it like that, but that's truly what it is. Like when a country artist is singing about their life, it's as a rapper is rapping about their life too. And there is it enhances to me why this music is so incredibly popular, because it's about people and their experiences
and the power of the narrative.
100%. 100%. And it is music of the people. It's the music that tells people stories, right? There's stories in these. And I think that's what it makes the best songs, in my opinion, are the ones that share stories in that. And these are stories of people who live in West Virginia in these hollers, and they're poor, and this is the best way to entertain themselves, right? The Carters came from a place called Poor Valley, I believe, right? And right on the other side of the mountain is Rich Valley, right? And so
Very
Wow.
straightforward.
very
Yeah.
Poor Valley,
straightforward.
Rich Valley.
Yes, and they wanted to tell stories, and that was how they did it. And what they would go around collecting all of these stories.
A.P. Carter and Leslie Riddle.
That's right. Yeah, A.P. Carter. Leslie Riddle was kind of his like tape recorder. He was a person of color, and he was the tape recorder for AP. He traveled with him, and he would ask if he had a hint of whether or not he was going to go tell, like, if someone had a story, he went and collected the story, and he would come back with pockets full of pieces of paper with the
Wow.
words on them, so he could teach the group these stories. And so it's just, I think these are stories that need to be told, that have been told for centuries before country music even came along. And I think country music was a way to collect them and kind of remember those roots, kind of like we have, right? Those stories, the slaves and the songs that the slaves sang, to pass along information and tell our story,
Yes.
so we don't forget it. It's the best way to do it. They can't burn it. They can't take it away from us. And they were traveling in the South. That is the big thing. It was after segregation had been done away with, but largely the South still were segregating. So he traveled with this white man to collect songs. So like, it wasn't easy. I mean, they say the same thing about DeFord Bailey, who was famous because he was on the radio. This is when radio started to become big, and that was when, before the Grand Ole Opry was the Grand Ole Opry, they created this radio station because they wanted to sell insurance. They saw that it was working
Wow.
in other places.
That is insane. That's smart as all get out.
Makes sense.
They wanted to sell insurance, and so they would put in an ad in the paper, and they would people would come by their droves just to be on the radio. And then Ralph Peers, he had so much impact on where the business is today, because then he started collecting copyrights and publishing rights, and then he would share with the artists. They would get checks.
Wow. Now
He would give them
that I
percentage
didn't
of the
expect.
publishing rights, of the copyrights. Yeah. And that is
Definitely
how,
unexpected.
right. And that is how AP and the Carters became famous and rich. And that is how Jimmy Rogers became rich, for that hillbilly music that was actually controversial. They didn't want it. Program came on, and he started with DeFord Bailey on the harmonica, with sounding like a train. And he said, anybody can create a train, but mine can move. And that's what DeFord Bailey said. And that was the start of the Grand Ole Opry. DeFord Bailey, a black man.
Wow, a black man.
Yeah.
And okay, so we've mentioned the banjo. I do think it is important to honor also the harmonica, and specifically what Black folks did with the harmonica, because one of the big innovations with Black folks and the harmonica was our ability to bend the notes, and then of course the sucking of the air. I was reading about how people were like, what Black folks was doing, we would suck the air, we would bend the notes, we would move the harmonica in a way that wasn't happening before Black folks got a hold of that instrument to make it do something else.
Yeah. And that is directly tied to the word that I heard in a lot of the documentaries that I'm either actually watching right now or have watched, is that we were innovating in the space. Innovation. We were innovating in that space.
But hasn't that always been our narrative since
It
we
really
stepped
has.
foot into this country? It's like we will take something so mundane and just turn it into an iconic piece of music or of fashion. But yeah, so you are pretty much proving why Q Points is, again, very important to everybody that's listening right now. What else can we learn today?
Man, I am by far not an expert, but I've just
Yes, you are.
You are. You are the expert.
I'm learning just like everyone else is learning, and it's fascinating. And the fact that I get to come to Q Points and talk about it is the most fascinating thing about it at all, that I get to talk about it, because the more you read and the more you realize that there's an influence there, that we had the influence, and it's directly tied to my sense of the music that I like, right? Like, some people are hip hop heads, some people love pop. I like a little bit of everything, but I really do love country. And I told my wife the other night, I said, I'm really not a hip hop head. She goes, no. I said, but I love country. And she goes, you do. And that's the truth. Like, I enjoy this music very much. So to get into the history of it, but to see that we had an impact from the beginning, it makes you feel like you don't feel like such an outsider, another at that point. It's a good feeling to know that we were there at the foundations of this music. You know, people like DeFord Bailey and guys like Ralph Peer, who just saw that the music was important, not the color of your skin. He's the reason why DeFord Bailey became as big as he was and as famous as he was. Right? First black man to be inducted into the country music hall of fame. Like, he gave that guy an opportunity, and DeFord Bailey proved why he deserved to be on radio and became this big, star, not just in the black world, but in the white world as well. And so you realize that this was just there was a lot of community and a lot of togetherness that had to happen for this music to really become as big as it is. And it didn't just take one race. It took both to make that happen. And that's what's beautiful about this. And if people really dug into the weeds of that, they'd understand that this was a together thing, not a you thing or a me thing by ourselves.
You know what is so, and it's just something to sit with. I think as, in particular, I'm thinking about contemporary country fans, and folks in the industry, how powerful seizing this current moment could be in terms of really truly defining the America that we want for our future, and how country music can be part of making that happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, if the people who love this music to their core and the powers that be who make it happen throughout Nashville and throughout the world, what power it could have if we embrace all of this new diversity that is entering the space, how it can shift the hearts and minds of folks.
It's just, I mean, I don't even know how to say it. You said it best at that point. Like, if people really understood how this thing started, I think it really would change the hearts and minds of people, especially, African Americans entering this space who love this space. And I think other African Americans would also accept it as that it's our music too, right? Like, I think that would be helpful. And that's why it's so important to understand our history and the roots and where things come from and the influence. Because, when you grow up as a kid who likes country, and you're around a lot of African Americans, you are the other, but you realize I'm not the other. I'm just representing our music. It's not just hip hop or R&B or jazz. It's country too. That's what's great about it. And when I say we innovated in that space, we innovated in that space. We own that space too. So we shouldn't let anybody else tell us that we don't belong in that space at all.
So, Mark, if you were in charge of programming, say you were, became program director of a radio station, like, what do you listen? What would you like to hear, or what does that space look like in the media? because I think that's where everything, is born now. Is well, not yeah, is born. It takes shape. It touches the masses. Like, what would you like the media to look like?
Man, it would be very diverse. Like it
Hmm.
would be extremely diverse. And you're right. When I look at the media around country stations now, there's not a lot of that, right? And so if I was a director, or a program director, I would absolutely make sure that I look for diversity, look for it, actively look for it. And when I had an opportunity to bring someone who is in that space, may not be getting enough shine or enough recognition, I would make it my business to make sure that they got a platform. Here's your opportunity. Make the best of the opportunity that we're trying to be helpful with at this point. It's just about turning around and reaching out your hand and bringing the next person up, right? And supporting each other, something that we as a people don't always tend to do very well. And so it's not a crabs in a barrel mentality, because there's plenty for everybody. We can all win. And so if as a PD, that would be my mentality first. That would be a mission statement, is that we're looking for more diversity. It's not just a statement. It's going to be proven in our actions and the things that we do.
You know what, Mike? And I'm going to build on, I love everything that you said. And Sir Daniel, I love your question too, because I also think it's poignant that Black radio, we need a country show on Black radio. Like when I'm listening to WDAS here in Philly, I'm like, there's not a country, because what we do in radio, it's like with everything else, right? Everything is so categorized. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, we will mix a hip hop and a classic R&B, and a contemporary R&B. Let's throw a country show in there and let the folks have it. Give them an hour, give a DJ an hour on a Black station to play this music. I think that could be powerful too. Because in preparation for this show, I started listening to some harmonica joints from back in the day. Listen,
They're good.
these brothers was blowing that harmonica and singing the
Yeah.
blues and giving you everything that you needed. I never grew up hearing that on the radio ever. Like, not, well, I didn't listen to country stations when I was a kid, but I mean, I wouldn't have been able to hear what I had to go and seek out. It would be amazing if we got a chance to hear some of that stuff regularly and it not feel so, to your point, other, right? It's just part of it, like this part of the music. Like, yeah, we need that too.
And what's great about that, and is that means we're going to expose not just ourselves, other people, to the talent that we have. And it's not just one makes it. And that was the biggest in Charlie Pride, one of the biggest country or African American country artists out there. Everyone knows Charlie Pride if you love country, right? And Charlie Pride was great because he made a path when there wasn't one, right? But the only problem with that is that he was the only one. It shouldn't take years and years and years for another Black person to achieve the success of Charlie Pride. And as I was watching this documentary on Ken Burns on PBS, one of the things they said was, if you come to town to Nashville and you're African American, go to Charlie Pride. That's what the record labels would tell people. Go to Charlie Pride.
And he's an artist himself. Like,
that's right. He's not a record label. Right. He's not a record label. But because Charlie Pride, he was the one, right? He was the one. And when they realized that Charlie Pride, I'm sorry, it wasn't the country, it was the For Loving Country. When they realized that he was popular, that's when they put the walls up. They were like, oh no, we can't have too many Charlie Prides. We can just have one Charlie Pride.
Ooh. Okay, so Mike, you just prepped. So
yeah,
make sure that y'all go to the next episode where we are going to be diving into the Charlie Pride effect. Because my goodness.
It brings up the whole idea of exceptionalism when it comes to, your especially in the earlier years, this exceptionalism of Black artists, Black athletes, Black actors. It was like, okay, we like you, and you're going to be it for now. And yeah, which causes this ripple effect, not only in just those categories that I listed, but within our own community, this idea of exceptionalism, and you have to be uber uber talented in order to gain some respect or to even get a chance. And I'm so curious to know what effect that had on Charlie Pride to be given that kind of power to give the cosign, because absolute power corrupts. It could be it could be that he used it for good, or a lot of people could get shut out because he's been given this task, this
Yeah.
this label as the gate master, the Negro gate master for country music.
And I will say that he probably was cautious because of things that happened to
Mhm.
DeFord Bailey. There's a rise and fall of him, right? There's a rise of DeFord Bailey. He was very popular, and then there was a fall of him basically because people started taking his style and co-opting the style, right? And then they had these race records that they called them,
Ugh.
right? They had these race records. So after a while, you realize that if you're not popular enough, which is why I think the Charlie Pride effect is interesting, because if you're not popular enough, whatever you do can be co-opted. Like there is history from the very beginning of our music being co-opted to make to be used in popular spaces, right? And and so right, and then they had
Yeah.
these minstrel shows where they did blackface. Why did you have to be blackface? Why didn't you just use black
Entertainers.
entertainers to do that,
Yeah.
right? And so you start to realize if you're not the best, and you're not impressing you're not impressing the majority, they'll just go, you're not important enough, we'll just take it because we like your music, we just don't like the color of your skin, and we're not willing to deal with that, but we'll take your music and use it for our own. Most of the music that started early country is not original words, music, melodies. It's all been taken from somewhere, and not specifically us. So that's the thing, is it was taken from old sea shanties and like these other things from different countries. They like, so when people are like, oh, this is our original music, we started this, I think someone said this is white soul music, and I didn't necessarily agree with all that in the documentary. I was like, white soul music, right?
There's a few thousand reasons
little
why that's
us.
not a real statement. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. As you were talking, Mike, what I automatically think of, and I can't remember if it was Ray or which movie it was, but the scene where they took the record and had it covered by a quartet of strictly white boys, sitting, and the album art sitting on top of a Cadillac, singing the song, and they're very,
in my opinion, you took the soul out with that one. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That
That was
happens,
Dream
like,
Girls, by the way.
Dream Girls, okay, and
Dream Girls.
as J. Ray was saying, that happens more often than we know to this day.
And so, and I think the special thing about Charlie Pride is he wasn't going to be denied, right? Like, and that was the thing. He was like, I'm too big now. You can't take what I got. And I think that's what happened. Up until that point, I think a lot of Black African American artists were experiencing theft.
Can I tell y'all some interesting facts that I learned as I was preparing for this?
Absolutely.
That was really fun. So, of course, country. Well, okay, let's just go. The music that this is even probably all mixed in, because country is derivative of other music that was being created. Well, one of the musics that emerged at the same time as the blues was country blues. I had never heard of this as a subgenre. Although I had heard of country blues artists like a Robert Johnson fit into this category of being like a country blues artist. So I wanted to talk about this because I just wanted to mention it's of kind of how it is a carve out, which I wasn't aware of, that includes this music with its origins once again in West Africa.
Mm.
Fascinating to me, but is of course really focused on the Mississippi Delta. And this is typically solo men singing using a guitar, maybe a banjo, maybe a harmonica. Um, but became this very specific kind of music that kind of predated the blues we know today. But it was this style of music that started in the Mississippi Delta called country blues. And
Mm.
it was just a fascinating little tidbit of information. Honestly, I put all of these folks into the category of blues musicians, but this was a very specific call out that history says was like, no, this is really categorized as this specific kind that was one man, one instrument singing a tune, and primarily black men.
Mm,
Interesting
I didn't know
little
that.
piece of history.
I didn't know that. I mean,
Yeah, I'm like you, J Ray. I would have thought all of this was lumped together because I'm
Mm,
thinking that the country came out of the blues. So I'm thinking blues was there first. But thank
Mhm,
you for, enlightening us with that because, yeah, I thought it was
mhm,
something else.
mhm,
yeah, I mean, this whole topic is fascinating. Especially when you get to back when you look at some of the history of it all. I mean, one of the most fascinating things that I learned in the things that I've been researching is a lot of these country artists back in the day, they were businessmen. They weren't even country. They changed their image to match their country persona.
That's
Fascinating.
why it's called show business, folks.
S-
Show
Indeed.
business.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
Boston, a lot of I believe Jimmy Rogers. I believe Jimmy Rogers was from Boston, and
Huh.
he became like the most. They call him the father of country. Is what they call
Hmm,
Jimmy Rogers. Is the father of country.
interesting.
Wow. I think we do, as hopefully at some point during this series, we do get to examine the fact of, and maybe we'll figure this out. But when people do decide that they want to do something country related, I do feel like they have to go through some metamorphosis. Like it's almost like a requirement. And I'm curious to know where that started. But this describes like, it's happened from the very beginning where these businessmen would suddenly change into this persona to be now a country music artist.
And it makes me
Interesting.
think of that Prince quote where he said the recording industry is not ran by artists, but it is ran by attorneys and businessmen. It's
Hmm.
all, from the very beginning, as Mike said in the beginning, this was a means to sell insurance. Like, so taking somebody's artistry, you know what? I'm gonna marry these two things. Say I'm gonna put your chocolate in my peanut butter and your peanut butter in my chocolate, and we're gonna make some money.
Wow.
That's right.
Big Mike,
That's
fascinating
right.
history. I'm excited about this journey. Listen, this truck that we in is already
This
doing what
RV
we
is
need to.
trucking,
It's
trucking along.
trucking.
I love it. I love it.
But yeah, y'all, make sure that you tune in for the next installments of this, where we will be diving into the illustrious career of Charlie Pride. Um, and yeah, this is a fun journey, and I'm excited to be on it with y'all too.
Man, I appreciate you, Mike. We appreciate you adding on to
Thank you.
this other dimension of Q points.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
We
the pleasure's all mine, man. Anytime I get to talk a little bit of history, country music, and then our place in that history or in country music. I'm excited. I try not to miss an opportunity to do that, but I want people to understand that we were a part of the foundation of country music. And if anybody tries to tell you different, tell them to do their history. Look, dig, right? Because if someone tries to tell you and try to gatekeep, know your history. Know that we were there too. It wasn't done by themselves. This is not what this guy called white soul music. It was just soul music. That's it.
And on that note, you heard what the man said. We don't have anything else to say. J. Ray, what do I always say at the end of the show? In this life, you have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the record play. I'm Sir Daniel.
J. Ray.
I'm Big Mike.
And this is a special episode of Q Points. We'll see you on the next go round at the next rodeo. Peace.